Okay. Today we're going to start Samach Beis, Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. Thank Hashem that they're able to learn every day. It's learning. Beis Hamikdash. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. That's the word starts Itmar.
You can also keep in mind the website today, the Shem of Shmuel ben Moshe.
Keep in mind the Schluss of the Shem of Shmuel ben Moshe. Who is that?
My stepfather.
Oh, Dr. Stein's stepfather. You're outside. Okay, so we're going to start from Itmar. It's 4 lines from the bottom on 62b. Okay, just the setup for this Gemara is that there's a shliach lekabbalah, an agent that receives the get on behalf of the woman, and then there's a shliach leilacha, which is the agent that brings the get on behalf of the husband. Well, here we're gonna discuss if the agent was made an agent by the wife, and when the agent gets to the husband, he says, "I'm the other type of agent." And the husband says that whatever my wife said, that's what type of agent. Now, he doesn't know what the wife said because the agent has.
Why is he getting divorced?
He doesn't know what the wife said because the agent switched what the wife said. So is the husband really relying on what his wife actually said, or is the husband relying on what the agent says the wife said when he said whatever she says? Let's take a look at this inside. The wife tells the agent, "Bring me my get." Okay, now that wasn't her job to make an agent halacha, which that would be the job of the husband. Okay, when he appears in front of the husband, he changes this and he says, "The ishtacha amra hiskabali giti." Your wife said that I should receive the get. No, the wife never said that. Receive the get means that it's liach lekabbalah, that right when he receives it, she's divorced. So v'hu amar, the husband says, "Heilach k'may shamra," take it as she said. Does he mean? Let's take a look. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Baravua, Amar Rav. Rav Nachman says the name of Rav Baravua, his father-in-law. In the name of Rav, afilu igia get liyada, even when the get reaches her hands, ain't megareshes, she's not divorced. Well, how is it that she's not divorced? Obviously, the husband tried to make the agent a shliach lekabbalah, which doesn't work. Now, why do you try to make the agent a shliach lekabbalah? Because the agent said, "I'm a shliach lekabbalah." Your wife told me that I should receive it. Shmamina, it must mean, we see from this, adibura dideka samach, that we rely on the agent's words of what the wife said. Because if we'd be relying on the wife's words, then at least she should be divorced when it reaches her hands, which is a shliach lahilacha. When it would reach her hands, she should be divorced. It must be that when we have a question like this, whose words do we rely on? We rely on the way the agent said it. This is really a Gemara in Bava Metzia about someone that sends an agent to hire workers for him. He says, "I'm going to pay a certain price." When the agent comes to the workers, he says, "The Balabaya said that he's going to pay you such and such a price," and he changes the price. So the worker says, "I agree according to what the Balabaya said." Now the question is, what does he mean? He agreed to the higher price or to the lower price? Which one did he agree to? When he says according to what is he agreeing to what the Balabaya said according to the way you presented it? Or is he saying, I agree to what the Baba Maya said according to what he really said? And he's avoiding the way the Shliach presented it. So this the same average. The same question is over here when the husband says, I'm making you an agent as my wife said. Is he saying the way you presented what my wife said? And he's trusting the presentation of this? Or does he mean actually? So far we have an answer that he relies on the presentation of what the wife said. That's why over here he's not divorced. The wife isn't divorced at all, according to Reb Nachman, because the wife said that he should be a shliach l'halacha. He claims that he's the shliach l'kabbalah. The husband says, "Okay, you're a shliach l'kabbalah, like you're claiming." We say that, well, that's no good at all, because he's not a shliach l'kabbalah, so she's not divorced. Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says, "Hachi hashta." Says, hold on, you're trying to bring a proof, but it's not a good proof because there's one variable here that you didn't take care of. It goes like this. Let's say the case would have been the opposite. Then you would have had a good proof. Okay, you ready for the opposite case? It's not so complicated. It's just, you just have to make sure you don't get confused with the terms. Shliach leKabbalah, Shliach leHalacha. It's actually not that complicated. The opposite case would have done away with one variable and we could have had a proof. But the way that you're saying it now, there's another variable, you don't have a proof who the husband is relying on. Okay, so what's the opposite case that would have worked? Let's say hiskabali giti. Let's say the wife tells the agent, receive the get from me. What's that called? Shliach leKabbalah. Shliach leKabbalah. Can the wife do that? Yeah, the wife can do that. He appears in front of the husband and he presents what type of messenger is, type of messenger he is differently. He says, V'yishtacha amra, your wife said, Havali giti, I should bring to her the get. He's overdoing his shlichus. Really, his shlichus would have ended right when he receives the get. But he probably wants to go back and see the wife again and shmooze. He's not allowed to marry her, by the way. The shliach to bring a get can't marry the woman, I think. But anyway, he wants to go. He wants to be a shliach la'ilacha. He says, "Ishtcha amra haveli giti." It's not true, but that's what he says. And the husband says, "Heilach kamay shamra." Take the get as she said. Is he relying on the presentation, or is he relying on what she actually said? Well, and then V'amar Rab Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua. Then, if this is all theoretical, if this would have been the case, and if on this case, Rab Nachman would say in the name of his father-in-law, in the name of Rav, once the get reaches his hands, right? Once the get reaches his hands, she's divorced. Then we would have said, obviously. We rely on her actual words, not on the presentation of it. Why? Because if she's divorced immediately when the husband receives the get, that means he's a shliach l'kabbalah. Who made him a shliach l'kabbalah? The wife. He didn't tell that to the husband. When the husband gives her when the shliach receives the get, she's divorced immediately. So then that would mean that he is a shliach l'kabbalah. And she's divorced immediately, and as soon as that transaction takes place, the transfer of the get. Inami liyada. Or you can say that she's divorced when it reaches her hands. And that would mean adibura didei kasama. We're relying on his words, the shliach's words. Now, so that would have been a good proof. Whichever one Rav Nachman would have said, either she is divorced when the shliach receives it, or she's divorced when she receives it. That would have proved if we rely on his words or rely on her words. But over here, there's this one factor that you missed. In our case, the woman says that I want you to be a shliach la'halacha. Means I want you to schlep to the husband, get the get, and schlep it back to me, and then I'll be divorced. He appears in front of the husband, and he says, I just came all the way from your wife, I want to be a shliach lekabbalah. She said I should be a shliach lekabbalah. I don't have the patience to make my way back to her. I just want to receive it now, and she'll be divorced.
And she
So over here we say that she's not divorced. Now it could be, why is she not divorced? Because the shliach, not because the husband was relying on the shliach's words that he's really a shliach lekabbalah, and it's not true. That's not the reason. It could be that the reason, it's not the only reason. It could be that the reason is why this doesn't work is because the shliach says, I do not want to be a shliach lahalacha, because that's a shlep. So it's not the husband relying on the wife, what the wife really said, or the husband relying on what the shliach presented. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the shliach saying, I refuse to be a shliach lahalacha. I want to be a shliach lekabbalah. And the wife never made him a shliach lekabbalah. So it doesn't work because he's not a shliach lekabbalah. And he's claiming that's the only thing he wants to be. So there's that other variable that tells us that because of that variable, I have no proof. Does the husband rely on his words or on the presentation of wife's words, or does he rely on actually what the wife actually had said? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, didn't we learn yesterday that that his wife or ex-wife could ask a shliach to receive a get and then just she's divorced on the spot without her
exactly.
To get back?
That's called the shliach lekabbalah.
Oh.
Yeah, now over here, what we're talking about is that.
Yeah, they have one thought he thought it was a shliach. All of the other
Right.
Was a shliach.
Right, exactly. Okay. We're going to ask some questions now on Rav Nachman. And the questions are going to go like this. Rav Nachman says that if there's a deviation from what type of shliach he really is, then the whole thing is invalid. That's it. You're done. It wasn't exactly the right shliach. It didn't work. In other words, it doesn't fix itself. That's what Rav Nachman says. We're going to have some proofs from different brises that it fixes itself. If it doesn't work like this, okay, so then it will work like that. And that doesn't fit with the Rav Nachman's rule that, oh, you want it to be a shliach lekabbalah, and you're not really a shliach lekabbalah, so then you're nothing.
So we want to say it's self-correct.
We want to say, we're going to try to prove that it's self-correcting, not like the way Rav Nachman says. Amar Rav Huna bar Chia Tashma. Rav Huna bar Chia says, come and listen. If someone says, a skabel gets elishti, someone tells an agent, he says, receive this get on behalf of my wife. Is he able to do that? No. Because the wife has to say, receive it on my behalf. Or he says, Hailach gets elishti. Take this get to my wife. That works perfectly. So Ratzal Achsar, if he wants to retract, then Yachsar, he can retract. When does he retract? Before the wife receives the get. Once she receives it, too late. Taima deratza. What's the reason why he could retract? Because he retracted. He wants to retract. Halei ratza. But let's say he doesn't want to retract. Havi get. Then it would be a good get. Now, 1 second. Case number 1, he said his skabel gets elishti. You should receive this get from my wife. He made a shliach lekabbalah that doesn't work. It turns out that when the wife receives the get, she's divorced. How did that happen? The husband is not eligible to make a shliach lekabbalah, a shliach to receive the get. That's something that the wife has to do.
Oh, but he did make the get.
He made the get.
So his das was to give a get, and she.
So 1 second. Ella amrinan. Rather we say, kiman shenasanein of legarsha. Since he made the get and he's intending to divorce her, Meimar Amar, he surely said to Garish Kalhecha de Megasha, let her be divorced, however it works. That's probably what he had in mind. So if that's the case, if someone makes a get and he gives it to the shliach, and he makes a mistake on what type of shliach the person's supposed to be, that it's self-correcting. That it's supposed to work anyway. It's a kasha on Rav Nachman. She should be divorced. However it takes for her to get divorced. Why did you say that she's not divorced at all? Because he deviated from the type of shlichus that he is, and he claims that he's a shliach lekabbalah, and the husband gives it to him as a shliach lekabbalah, and then it turns out that he was really a shliach lahalacha. We said, okay, forget it. The get's no good. There was no divorce there. Why not? From here we see that even when he makes a shliach lekabbalah, which doesn't work, but when the get reaches the wife, it does work. The kasha and Rav Nachman from a brisa. Gemara says hachi hashta. Hold it. That means so now, or now, so like listen up. That's what hachi hashta. Halzachain, right? Yeah. You're asking this question because you understood that it's self-correcting, and therefore you're asking that it should self-correct in every case. The truth is that's not really what happened. Hasam over there, Adam Yedeya Shein Shlichus the Kabbalah. The husband that said you should receive this get, he knows that his shliach cannot receive a get for his wife. He's not the wife to make a shliach to receive it. He knows that. So why do you say receive the get? V'gomer v'nasan l'shem halacha. So what he did was, when he gave it to her, he said, receive this get. But when he said receive it, he means receive it from me to take to her. He knows that she can't receive it. So the word receive it just means take the get and do with it whatever you have to do. So that's the way we're going to interpret it, because we know that he knows that a shliach lekabbalah is not something that he can do. So when he uses the word receive it, that's the word that's used for shliach lekabbalah. Uses that word, he doesn't mean be a shliach lekabbalah. It means just receive it from me and take it to her. Hacha, but in our case, toy over here, it's not. We can't reinterpret the words. It's not that he said hiskabel. He said, take it as my wife said. Now, what his wife said is something that he doesn't really know. So here, it's all a mistake. It's not something that we can say that when he says, he didn't say hiskabel, that I can interpret hiskabel as receive it from me to take to her. He didn't say that. He said, take it as my wife said. Now, what did his wife say? Well, the person lied about what his wife said. The person said that your wife said that I should be a shliach lekabbalah. So the husband is actually intending to do whatever his wife said, which is presented to him that he's a shliach lekabbalah, which that's actually not true. So the whole creating of him as a shliach was inaccurate. He never made him a shliach, right? He thought that he was already a shliach from the wife. Okay, all we did over here was we switched it from the get being self-correcting to, it's not being self-correcting, it's being reinterpreted, which that we cannot do in the case of Rav Nachman. And the same type of question again. Okay, I'm a Rava. Rava says, Tashma, come and listen. Katana sha'amra hiskaba ligiti. If there's a young girl that sends a messenger, says, receive the get on my behalf. Now, a young girl, katana, cannot make a shliach. So the rule is, ain't a get ad sheyagia get liyada. Not a good get until the get reaches her hands. You hear where this is headed, right? She made a shliach lekabbalah, which doesn't work because she's too young to make a shliach lekabbalah. So it says, Raisa says, she wants to get divorced. That's if her brothers married her up. This is her father married her up. So, right? Yonathan's asking, let her just do miyan, let her just walk out. But that would be only if the brothers married her. If she was an orphan and the brothers married her. If the father, she needs a real get. So she says, receive the get from me, but she's too young to do that. So the Brisa says she's divorced only when the get reaches her hands. Kimata mikita liyada, but when the get reaches her hands, Mia Megarsha, she's actually divorced. Why should she be divorced? She didn't make her shliach la'ilacha. Ella, it must be. Once the husband intended to divorce her, it's going to be a good divorce because it's self-fixing, self-correcting. Gemara says, the same thing should be by Rav Nachman's case. Rav Nachman says that he claims that he's a shliach lekabbalah. We know that's not true. We know that wasn't true, but the husband doesn't know that that's not true, and he gives him the get, relying on what he claims the wife had said, and we say that it's not a good get, even when the get reaches her hand. Gemara says, hold it. Over there, the reason why it's a good get is because the husband knows that the shliach cannot be a shliach lekabbalah because the katana cannot make a shliach. And he made the shliach a shliach lahalacha from him. So hachatai. But in our case, back to Reb Nachman's case, that was just a mistake because he doesn't really know what the wife intended because he was lied to. So when he says you should be what my wife said, he made the wrong shliach. Okay. Same sort of question, same sort of answer. We thought that the get was self-correcting, the shlichus was self-correcting. Turns out that it's not self-correcting. It was because we're going to interpret what he said that he was really doing a shliach lahilacha. However, by Rav Nachman, we don't reinterpret that. We say whatever he was told, that's what he believes. Tashma, so come and listen. Havali Giti. This is back to our original case, right? Havali Giti. The wife says to the shliach, "Bring me my get." The shliach shows up by the husband and says, "Bishtachamre skabali Giti." Your wife said I should receive the get. That means that he changed himself into a shliach lekabbalah without the wife's permission, which doesn't work. Hiskabali Giti. The wife said you should be a shliach lekabbalah. He shows up at the husband and he says, "Ishtacha amra havali Giti." Your wife said that I should be a shliach lahilacha. He switched it again. Behu amar. The husband says, "Haylach v'tein, take it and give it to her," which that would be a correct statement for shliach lahilacha. Zechila, acquire it for her, which that would be a correct statement for shliach lekabbalah. V'eskabala, that would also be a correct statement for shliach lekabbalah. And the rule is, ratzalachsar, that was what the husband said. He said, take it to her, acquire it for her, receive it for her. And if the husband wants to retract now, yachsar, he could still retract. We have to see in a second because we had two cases here, and we had two cases of what the woman said. We had three possibilities of what the husband said, and we just threw it all together into as if they all applied to everything. And we said that she's not divorced until she receives the get. But when she does receive the get, she is divorced. Now the Gemara now, in order to ask a question, it interprets it. Sometimes the Gemara is looking for the question, so it interprets it in a way that this would be a question on Rav Nachman. My love, is it not Kabbalah, a Kabbalah, that when the husband says Zechila or Hiskabala, receive it for her or acquire it for her, that was referring to the case when the shliach said, I'm a shliach lekabbalah. Now, you have to remember what happened there. When the shliach says, I'm a shliach lekabbalah, he was really not a shliach lekabbalah because he lies about what the wife says. So when the husband says you should receive it on her behalf, that's probably referring to the case when the husband, when the shliach was the one that said, I'm a shliach lekabbalah and you should give it to me, so I should acquire it right now. But when he says take it to her, it's probably because the husband, the shliach told the husband that I'm a shliach lahilacha, which actually in our case meant that he was really a shliach lekabbalah. Okay, so basically whatever the shliach says, that's how the husband responds. Now, if that's the case, then what we are seeing is exactly the opposite of Rav Nachman, because we are seeing that when the get reaches the wife, she is divorced. Rav Nachman didn't say that. The Gemara says, "Loi." That's not what's going on. The case was Kabbalah ahilacha. When the shliach says that I'm a shliach lahilacha, the husband says, receive it for her. It's like the husband saw right through this. He knows what the wife really said. V'hailacha Kabbalah. And when the shliach says that I'm here to receive the get on your wife's behalf, the husband says, bring it to her, which is actually what the wife said, that you should bring it to me. Gemara said, okay, so now there was never any issue here of this get being self-corrected, which would ask a question on Rav Nachman, and the shlichus being self-corrected. Gemara says, Ikabala ilacha, 1 second. If he tells the shliach, receive it for her, when the shliach had told the husband that I'm here to bring it to her, and we say that works because the wife really said you should receive it from me. That means that receive it from me is what's coming, he's a shliach lekabala, and the husband says receive it on her behalf. So if that's the case, why does he only get divorced when it reaches her hands? She should be divorced when it reaches his hands, which is immediately. Why do you say that if the husband wants to retract, he could still retract till it gets to their hands? It must be.
Get, right?
I'm sorry?
He wants the get, right? So it's in his power.
Yeah, but it depends if the shliach is a shliach l'kabbalah, then it's too late. He gave it already. Shamet mina, but we would see from this, the dibura didei kasamach, that he's actually relying on the words of the shliach. Now, how could he be relying on the words of the shliach if he saw right through the shliach? And when the shliach says, I'm here to bring the get to your wife, he says, okay, receive it for her. What do you mean he's relying on his words? So Rashi explains, he's relying, actually when he says receive it for her, we're going to reinterpret that receive it on her behalf. Doesn't mean receive it on her behalf. He says iskabel, receive it from me to bring to her. The whole hiskabel doesn't mean the hiskabel. It means just receive it from me. Receive it from me, like the way we interpreted it before. The Gemara says, Hachiyashta, hold on. Hasam ka'amalei heilach k'may shamra. Now, what we're doing now is we're knocking off the proof from adibura didei kasamach. You see, what happens here is that when we prove who the husband relies on, is he relying on the shliach, or is he see through the shliach and he relies on what she really said? Right? When we prove this one way or another, which right now we're thinking that he relies on the shliach, the way the shliach presents what his wife says. So what we're saying now is that if that's the case, then we're going to take this Gemara back to Masechta Bava Metzia, where over there we had a case where someone is hiring workers, and the husband, not the husband over there it's the Balabayas. Balabayas says, I need some work in my garden. Can you hire workers for 4 coins? And the messenger shows up and says, the Balabayas is going to pay you 3 coins. And the worker he's hiring says, I agree whatever the Balabayas says. So if he's relying on the shliach's words, then he's only getting 3. He agreed to 3 coins. If he was seeing through what the shliach said, and he was saying, I'm relying on what the Balabayas really said, as if he doesn't trust. So we're looking at those words. When he says, I'm relying whatever the Balabayas said, do we go over the shliach's head back to what the Balabayas really said? That's what we're going to do now. What we're going to say is that we're going to take the halacha and Masechtas Gittin and we're going to apply it to Bava Metzia. Once we have a rule over here, we're going to make a psak. So the Gemara says, Tachiyash, to hold it. Hasam kamalei heilach k'may shamra. Over there, which means in our case, when he says, bring the get to her, he says, by the case of Reb Nachman. In the case of Reb Nachman, he says, take it like she said. But Hacha, in this case right here, Mikamala Helach K'may Shamra, you have no proof. He didn't say take it like he didn't say whatever my wife said. That wasn't even the case. All he said over here was Zechi v'eskabel, acquire it and receive it. And we just interpret it to mean that he said, acquire it and receive it from me to bring to her. In other words, if the husband actually would have said, take it the way my wife instructed, the way my wife said, then we don't have a proof that he's relying on the way the shliach presented what the wife said, or what the wife really said. That we don't have a proof of that. Okay. Now we have a new story. And now we're just going to talk about the words of halach. What does halach mean? Or halach. Does halach mean acquire it? Halach means bring it to her. But bring it to her, does that mean acquire it for her, or does it actually mean to bring it to her? Okay, that's a discussion that we had before. And Tanur Rabbana was taught in a brisa. Eskabeli giti. The wife tells the shliach, go and receive a get on my behalf. V'ishtecha amra. When the shliach shows up at the husband's door, he says, knock, knock, I'm here to receive the get. He says, Eskabeli giti. I'm here to receive the get. V'hu aimer, and the husband says, Haylech v'teinla. Take it and bring it to her. So he's a shliach lekabbalah from the wife. He says he's a shliach lekabbalah from the wife. The husband says, take it and bring it to her. Take it and give it to her. Zechila, acquire it for her. V'eskabbalah, and receive it for her. Ratzalachsar, if he wants to retract, layachsar, he can't retract. Now, what's interesting there is that he actually said the words, take it to her, and he still can't retract, even though it looks like he's making a shliach le'haylacha. Rav Nassan says, haylech v'teinla, on the statement of take it to her and give it to her, ratzalach seyachsar, on that he could retract. So Rav Nassan divides this up. Zechila v'eskabbalah, if he says acquire it for her or receive it for her, ratzalach seyachsar, that he can't retract. That's what I would have thought also. I mean, Rav Nassan seems to be the logical. Rebbe says, Bekulan, in all the cases, he can't retract. Only if he says, says, I don't want you to receive it for her. It's impossible for me to do that. I want you to take it to her. Then he could retract. Gemara asks right away, Rebbe Hanetanakama, what's Rebbe saying different than the first opinion? It's exactly what the first opinion said. First opinion says that even when he says Haylech v'teinla, that's considered a shliach lekabbalah, even though it sounds like a shliach le'halacha, but that's considered shliach lekabbalah, that he's receiving it on behalf of the wife. And only if he says that I'm clearly not making you a shliach lekabbalah, that's when it's not going to be a shliach lekabbalah. Well, the Gemara says, Iba Yesema. We have two differences possibly between Rebbe and the Tanakama. One difference is EFshi lashmin. Rebbe was just adding in the EFshi, that you can actually get out of being a shliach lekabbalah if you use the words EFshi. Or we can say all it's telling us is that who is the Tanakama? It's Rebbe. It's sort of like answering the question, which is repeating the question. So if Rebbe is the Tanakama, so why do you have to bring the Rebbe just to saying, well, it's telling me that Rebbe is the Tanakama. Okay. Ibailo, they have a question. Halach l'Reb Nassan kizechidami, elav kizechidami. Halach means here it is. According to Reb Nassan, Reb Nassan said that if he says haylech, bring it, then that clearly means that he's not a shliach lekabbalah, he's a shliach lahaylacha. Yeah, he said bring it. That means bring it. It means he's not there to receive it. He's there to bring it to her and then to transfer it over to her, and that's what she's divorced. But let's say he says here it is. What does here it is? Does here it is mean acquired for her, or does here it is mean bring it to her? Halach l'Reb Nassan kizechidami alav kizechidami tashema. So come and listen. Someone that says this gabel gets elishti, a man tells a shliach, receive this get on behalf of my wife. Or bring this get to my wife. If he wants to retract, he could retract. Why? Because the person's only a shliach lahalacha. Even the hiskabel gets lishti will reinterpret to mean receive this from my wife doesn't really mean receive it on behalf of my wife. We'll reinterpret it to mean receive this from me to bring to my wife. But if a wife says receive the get from me, then if the husband wants to retract, he can't retract once it's given to the messenger, it's done. My love, are we not talking about the halach, where the husband says, here it is. For Rav Nassan, and it's the opinion of Rav Nassan. It says, loy, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about halach for Rebbe. We're talking about it's the opinion that it's halach, and it's following the opinion of Rebbe, where when the husband says, take it to her, he really means receive it for her. Unless he says he yapshi. Okay.
So just to understand, so shliach, the husband can retract in a shliach.
If it's a real shliach, the Kabbalah, the husband cannot retract.
Oh, so I got it mixed up.
The shliach Kabbalah means I'm here on behalf of the wife, right? to receive it. That means
he is the one that's going back and forth.
Right? Yeah, he's identifying as the wife. That's the shliach. That's the shliach Kabbalah. The shliach lahilacha is he's representing the husband. The husband going all the way till it's the agent of the husband, right? The shliach Kabbalah is the agent of the wife. This is the new wife that we have standing right here in front of the husband, receiving the get on behalf of the wife. Yeah, Rav Nassan is Rav Nassan Ababli. Yeah, he's a friend of Rav Meir. He's a little older than Rebbe. Uh-huh. He would be a contemporary of Rebbe's father, of Shimon ben Gamliel. Okay. Rav Nachman is an Amora. Yeah, he's a student of Rav and Shmuel. Yeah.
Married to Yalta, which is why he's so involved in the particulars of what to say.
Whoa.
A woman.
Yeah.
Because we mentioned his father-in-law.
Yeah.
So it's interesting the character who was picked.
Right.
Not just any Joe Rebbe.
Tashima, come and listen. Lafika chimam abal. The husband says, is this a quote from Rebbe? No, this is not a quote from Rebbe. This is a quote of our Mishnah. The Mishnah says, our Mishnah, we're re-quoting our Mishnah at the beginning of the parak. It says, Lafikach imam bali yafshet the Kabbalah lahoylach v'teinla, they're not tzalachzar yachzar. Go back. The case of the Mishnah was that if someone says, receive this get on behalf of my wife, or take this get to my wife, wants to retract, he could retract. If the woman says, receive the get from me, then he can't retract. Therefore, if the husband says, I can't have you receive it, for I need you to bring it to her, then he can still retract. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says that totally Gitti also can't retract. Okay. I want you to be a shliach le'halacha. I cannot have you to be a shliach le'kabbalah. Then, if he wants to retract, he could ratzalachsa yachsa. Time of the Amar Yafshi. Why would the husband want the wife to receive the get?
Not like if she says this like why would he modify like her slave and make it like
he wants to put her through he wants to put her through the whole ceremony of receiving a get in front of witnesses. Doesn't want her to get away. She's lazy. She's at home. It's like he's divorcing her. You never get out of the house. This is no. Now you got to go to. I don't know. I'm making up a story, but it's hard to. It's hard to limit what the couples can do at the time of divorce. You know, there's all types of idiosyncrasies. Okay, time of the Amar EFC. Why does he become a shliach le'haylacha? Because the husband says, I cannot have you being a shliach le'kabbalah. Allah Yamar EFC. But if he didn't say EFC, I cannot have you. EFC means it's impossible for me. It's like ein EFC. Ein EFC. It's not possible, right? Then Ratzal Achsar le'yachsar. Then she's going to be a regular shliach le'kabbalah. My love, behelach for Reb Nassan. Is it not talking about where he just says, here it is? The husband the shows up, says, I'm here to be a shliach Kabbalah, and the husband says, here it is. And it's following the Reb Nassan. And we have an answer. The Reb Nassan says, helach is like to receive it. It says, lai, behelach for Rebbe. We're actually talking about where he said, take it to her. And we're following the view of Rebbe, where when Rebbe says, take it, it doesn't actually mean take it, it means receive it. Okay. Tashema, come and listen. If someone says, bring this get to my wife, well, that's a regular case of a shliach lahaylacha. Ratzalachsar, yachsar. If he wants to retract, he can still retract because the wife didn't receive it yet, and he can still say that I changed my mind. Let's say, heilach gets elishti. Here's the get for my wife. Then ratzalachsar layachsar. If he wants to retract, he can't retract. Why? Because here it is. We're now interpreting it to mean that it means receive it for her. Man shamet lei damar heilach ratzalachsar yachsar. Which opinion holds that when you say take this, or that means that it's a shliach lahilacha? It wasn't Rebbe, because Rebbe holds that's a shliach lekabbalah. It must be Reb Nassan. It must be the view of Reb Nassan. Become a heilach ratzalachsar leyachsar. And here we're saying that heilach, if he says heilach, he cannot retract. That means heilach, according to Reb Nassan, means acquire it for her behalf. Shma heilach kazachidami shma. We're seeing that take it means acquire it for her, according to Reb Nassan. We have our answer. Itmar, we have a statement. Very good, sorry. If someone tells a shliach, a woman tells a shliach, receive the get from me, the shliach shows up at the husband's door and he says, your wife said that I should receive the get for her, which is exactly what the wife said. And he says, take it and give it to her. Okay. Amar Rab Abba, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav. Rab Abba says the name of Rav Huna, who's a student of Rav, says, Nasa Shluchai, he becomes his messenger. He was originally her messenger, becomes his messenger. Bishlucha, and he's already her messenger. B'chayletzes, and let's say the husband dies right now, before the get reaches her hand. So she can't do yibum because she was divorced, being that this fellow was a messenger from her to receive the get, but she also is not free to marry anyone because she was also a messenger from the husband, that she's only divorced when she receives the get. So there's a suffix over here. And so we say it's a partially shliach from him, partially shliach from her, we're not really sure. And so she has to do chalitza, which is what you do when you can't marry the brother and you also can't marry anyone else. L'meimra, this means to say, that Rav himself had a suffix. Because what did the husband say? He said, Hailech, take it. Which was a question, if he passed it, which would mean it's a question if he passes like Rebbe or Reb Nassan. But we have another statement. If a person says, take this money, take this $100 to so-and-so that I owe him the money. So did he give it to the messenger to receive it on behalf of the creditor? Or did he send it to the creditor and the creditor hasn't received it until it reaches him? He used the same word as hoylech. Amarav chayev b'achar yusay. He's sending it until it reaches the creditor. It's not considered that it was received. Vimbal achzar. And if he wants to retract, ein a chayzer. He can't retract. He can't take it back. So this looks like it's the same suffix. Which would mean he can't retract. But the way we're going to view this is like this: that the creditor has already received it. That's the way we're going to view it, because he can't take it back anymore. So why did we say before that he's responsible for it until it reaches his hand? So because you gave it to a messenger that the creditor never told you to use. So you took someone else's item and you put it in someone else's hands. You're responsible for that until the person receives it. But it's still considered the other person's money because you can't retake it back, which means that hoylech is kizachi. That when you say, here it is, or when you say, take it, that means that acquire it. Gemara says, no, it's not a proof because hasam, safek b'mayna lakula. Over there, if you want to take the money back, then we're going to say that 1 second, it's already left your hands. You want to take it back? You have to bring a proof that you don't owe it or something, or that the person never received it. Now, this is considered, this could be a doubt if he received it. But hacha, safek yisur l'chumra. But over here, even if we say it's a doubt, but we still have to be strict. So in other words, basically you can say it's a doubt in both cases. Over there, I have to be strict that it's as if the person received the money. Over here, I have to be strict as if the woman never received her get. Okay, Amar Rav. Leave it over here. Yeah, let's leave it over here. We're up to Amar Rav. Let's leave it by Amar Rav. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Yeshakaya. Thank you. Have a good day.
We're going to learn tomorrow and tomorrow night as well. B'ezras Hashem.